All right, now Waki Gatame is the final technique of the Hijiwaza. And in Waki Gatame, we're looking at a side locking mechanism. The side we're talking about is the side of Uke's body. So as we're putting a technique on the man, we're stretching this arm out and we're elongating it down the side of his body, and we're putting a lock that controls the wrist and controls the elbow as well. Now, if the man is collapsing with his posture, then we would go all the way to the ground and see a judo form of this, of a Waki Gatame done here. Now that's excessive and probably more than you need, but it's always available in Waki Gatame as a structured form. So you have those options. Typically in a regular Waki Gatame that's, go ahead, that's done for kata, for instance, the man will probably keep his posture a little more upright and will have a locking mechanism of squeezing with the pectoral muscles and the trapezius muscle, squeezing here, hardening the armpit is what Mr. Tomiki called it, and we're going to support that function in the crook of this elbow to make an overwhelming type of control right here. So I would stretch him out with my leg and collapse the arm structure this way. It could always resolve to going to the ground, but the standing lock does teach you mechanisms of using the body isometrically and contracting correctly to set the lock up, whether you were supporting it on the ground or standing up. Really doesn't matter. Often what happens with these locks in realistic self-defense is the elbow, your elbow winds up making contact with their elbow, and you actually get an injury in a self-defense situation right off the bat. So there's two basic forms to think about here. There's the form in which our elbows collide, which you can think of as a self-defense option. When the elbows collide, bang, it doesn't take very much pressure there to injure the joint. So the lock would basically be done at that point. Or we have the same basic idea. This elbow comes over and squeezes in. And when that happens, there we go, the squeezing in function here is a more classical idea of how we would capture and take into a side fall or a kneeling position or a seated position in his armpit. Also, with Waki Gatame, we have a form that happens much like what we just did in Uda Haneri, where we cast it off, roll his hand to the outside, but rather than cause the arm to coil and bend like this, if we just keep it straight and stretch him out like this, we'd have a Waki Gatame form happening from the front, so it's an inverted form. In that particular case, you wind up in a Waki Gatame from the front, your legs are vulnerable to being picked off to a low grappling style attack. And so it's probably advisable, should you find yourself with this type of Waki Gatame, to go ahead and gently kneel on that same side. Otherwise, the vulnerability becomes pretty overwhelming. The lock is there in terms of the arm, so technically it's a good lock. It just doesn't give you the positional strength that you'd like in terms of dealing with uke. So all of those are basically Waki Gatames. Anytime the arm gets straight to the side, stretched out in the long dimension, pressure down through the elbow, or pulled in with the tricep, bicep, pec, and lat muscles, you have a Waki Gatame form. Lots of ways to get there. Probably most popular, straight up over the top. This emphasizes that rising function. Straight up over the top. Boom, up and down. Then there's a nice one that happens if I turn straight to the outside. Nice control to Waki Gatame. I could go, it's easy to take a little back step. You see this in a lot of jiu-jitsu styles. In Goshin Jitsu form, you see this type of Waki Gatame here. You have a Waki Gatame that you pull off from sort of an inside-out catch. It's kind of nice, a turning to the inside and then rolling it out. A very beautiful Waki Gatame form. All of them very useful. You want to play with as many different ways to get there as you can. Functionally, the elements you're looking for: control, control, control. That's your Waki Gatame. It's also popular sometimes to stretch him out and do it with no hands like this. That's probably kind of showing off. You can get away with it somewhat as long as you're really confident about dropping down or coming to the knee. You can also turn away from him slightly to cause more exaggeration, turning the hip out to cause a little more difficulty for him. All of these elements work to combine to create a very nice Waki Gatame for you, but it takes a lot of fine-tuning with your ukes over time to get confident for Waki Gatame, regardless of how you pick it off. Thank you.